Well, hello everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. Great to be with you on this beautiful Thursday. I hope that you've had a great week. I've really enjoyed this new study we've just started out of the book of Proverbs. Of course, we've really just hit the ground running because there's so much information here. And so I want to take just a little more time today to really kick off the beginning. As we get into the heart of this message, purpose equals profit. What does that mean? We could use those words and look at all kinds of different angles. But what I want us to understand is using the words as what they mean. Meaning that if we have something and it has a purpose, then it should equal a profit, meaning a benefit. Well, what have we been given here? According to the first two verses that we see, we've been given wisdom, the opportunity to have it. Okay? It says in verse 2, to know wisdom and instruction. To know, that means to gain the knowledge, which means to ultimately evolve and move into wisdom, the application of that knowledge. So Scripture here says to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding. Now, as you are becoming familiar, those that continue to follow this ministry, and it means more to me than you could possibly imagine, you've probably developed an understanding I'm a word guy. So every word that I say, typically we build off of that because each one of those words have a meaning. So we see to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding. Well, to perceive means to become aware. We seem to be in a time right now to where many are not aware. And it's not because you can't see it. It's the ignorance of it, the ignoring of it. It's the, well, I'm closing my eyes or I'm putting my fingers in my ear because I still want to hear it. I don't want to see it. But friends, if we're going to understand purpose, which will ultimately create profit, we can't operate that way. And when we understand what this passage is saying, to perceive the words of understanding. If I'm trying to figure something out, if I'm trying to understand my destiny, my journey, my purpose, who am I? If I'm trying to understand all that, who is God, all those things, then I have to perceive the words of understanding. In other words, I need to become aware. Because if we become aware of the life that God has called us to live, then we need the words of understanding. In other words, how do I do that? It's just like instructions. Today many things you can order Amazon or IKEA or any of these different things, and you get the product. But it's in a big box filled with 1,000 screws and parts and a little booklet called instructions. Well, if you don't know how to put board A or product A and product C and D in the right places, B is probably going to fall apart and fall through or not be attached right. Okay? So that little booklet called instructions is valuable. We need to perceive those words of understanding. We need to become aware of what they say if we're going to put that product together. We can't just depend on an assumption, well, this goes here and that goes here because it looks right. But it might not be. There may be something that goes in between, or there may be a bracket there, or there may be something that we need in order to solidify that. It may very well go together, but it might not stay together. But the addition of that one little part makes the whole difference. That's what this is. That's what this is. Instructions. We perceive, we assume we got it all figured out. We're flowing along, man, and things are happening the way that we want them to, and all of a sudden A and C are no longer holding B together. It's falling through, it's falling apart. Friends, we need the words of understanding. And if we've come to know the Lord in a personal and intimate way, where it's affected change in our life, we need these words even more so. Because we need the words of understanding. What does this mean? I sometimes see, hear, listen, watch other teachings. And please understand, by no means do I claim to know it all, because I don't. Far from it. But here's where I do have an issue with those who have the same platform that I do. We can get right in front of one of these screens. We can get right in front of an audience. And we can teach. We have that ability. We have the capability, the talent, the skills, or what have you. But if we teach anything outside of the foundational principle of a relationship, a personal relationship with Christ, and what that means for our life, we are not giving the words of understanding. Many take those platforms and they go off on other areas. They go off on other places that aren't beneficial. In some ways they're either foolish, and I think even borderline blasphemous. Okay? Sin, that word is a word that means missing the mark. It's missing the mark, and I've taught this many times before, is the holiness of God. What represents that? What expresses that? What shows that? Okay, so the passage in Romans that says all fall short of the glory of God, well, that's a very, very broad category. What gets us short? Pretty much everything, right? Attitude, words, actions, moral crimes, mental crimes, physical crimes, moral actions, immoral actions, everything, okay? God is not talking about us being perfect. Now, in no means I'm not saying go live however you want. I'm not saying that at all. But when one takes a platform of teaching to go down those roads, well, what does God say about this, and what does God say about that, when it's not in Scripture, it's an assumption. Well, we all know what assuming does. Let's stick to the words of understanding. What is God calling us to do? Well, in a nutshell, friends, it's to be who He created. An image of Him. I want you to think about that for a minute. An image is a reflection. If you look in a mirror, you see an image of you. A reflection of what's there. Every flaw, every good part, everything in between. It's all there. You look at a clear pool of water, you may see your reflection. Scripture says from Genesis that God created us in His image. So the question we have to ask is, am I a reflection of that? Do others see that? If not, we go back to this. If I'm not understanding how to live that out, if I'm not understanding what that means, then I need the words of understanding. And you see, God created us with the ability to receive that. It's very, very clear right here. Very clear in this passage. The human mind is an incredible machine. An incredible tool. There used to be an old commercial that said a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Boy, isn't that true? It's an incredible creation, grafted and created and molded by the hands of God. He has given us the ability to receive wisdom. In other words, we have the capacity. It can be done if we will receive the instruction and apply the instruction. We have the ability to reason. We have the ability to think. We have the ability to apply what we learn. All of that said, in the understanding, we have the opportunity. But do we do it? The powerful words that we see recorded here in the book of Proverbs, they instruct us. They teach us about the things of God and how to understand that. In verse 3, it says, we receive the instruction. What do we do with something we receive? We accept it, right? We take it out of the mailbox. We allow it to be placed in our hand, whatever the case. But that product, that item, that instruction, that whatever it is of no use until we apply it, until we put it to use. We put the tool in the place where it goes. We put the key, we put the whatever it is, or we use that invitation to attend the event we've been invited to, or whatever. What we need to understand, I'm going to close with this. We're being taught through this instruction, we're being taught not just anything, but here it says we're being taught wisdom, justice, in other words, right and wrong, judgment, and equity. God is just. God is fair. God treats everyone with the same quality. Friends, here to give knowledge and discretion and direction and all those other things. In other words, if we will come to know what this says, if we will come to hear and receive what this says, this instruction, this word from God. In other words, looking at that word receive, again, we go back to words. Receive, accept, embrace, hold on to the instruction we're given here, then we're able to have the opportunity to apply that. And when we apply that, in other words, we open the next door, which allows us to receive the benefit of this knowledge. Then we're able to pass that knowledge on to others, which moves us into the realm of profit. We're able to see the results of what we're doing, and it's producing something. See, friends, we've got to understand the purpose of this teaching, which ultimately allows us to find our purpose. We understand the purpose of these words. It says to give us wisdom and instruction and all these other things, to perceive the words of the Lord. That allows us to find out who we are. It allows us to find our purpose. And when we begin to understand we're the image of God, we're the reflection of God, we represent the Lord. I have a tremendous purpose. I'm not just here for show. I'm not just saying that I know God and that gives me a guaranteed place in heaven. No, I have a purpose. And that purpose gives me the intent, the desire, the drive to create a profit. What does that mean? We'll talk about that the next time we're together. It'll either be tomorrow or on Monday. God bless you. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your support and your prayers. I'll see you next time.